The Harvest.
Greetings to you all, dear Ifriki FM listeners. This is Imene Nouad with the latest news across the continent and the world. At the United Nations Security Council, the A3 group calls on all parties in Venezuela to exercise restraint and urges an inclusive Venezuelan-led dialogue to resolve the crisis peacefully. South Africa also says the situation represents a violation of international law and calls on the Council to offer solutions. Let's hear this small part of the speech of the representative of the nation of Liberia.
Mr. President, the complex situation in Venezuela requires a comprehensive response that is both inclusive and nationally owned. We continue to hold that a sustainable and peaceful resolution can only be found through constructive dialogue among Venezuelans themselves, with genuine respect for the aspiration and rights of the Venezuelan people and with the constructive support of the international community. The A3 expresses its solidarity with the people of Venezuela and reiterates the African Union's commitment to peace, stability, and mutual respect among nations and regions.
In Algiers, Minister of State, Minister of Foreign Affairs and African Affairs, Ahmed Attaf, meets the Director General of International Organization for Migration, Amy Pope. Discussions focus on strengthening cooperation to address migration challenges and ensure effective management of migration flows. Efforts to ease tensions in eastern the Democratic Republic of the Congo continue on multiple fronts. Angola steps up on mediation, submitting peace proposals to President Felix Tshisekedi, who describes the initiative as interesting. At the same time, the security situation in the eastern DRC is set to top the agenda of a three-day regional meeting starting Thursday, January 8, in Livingstone, Zambia. Chiefs of Defense Staff and Defense Ministers of International Conference on the Great Lakes region are expected to discuss ways to stabilize the region. In Libya, the High Council of State elects Salah ad-Din al-Kumishi as the new head of the High National Election Commission, replacing Imad al-Siyah, who is backed by the Eastern-based House of Representatives. Libyan academic and political analyst Ilyas al-Baruni shares more insights on this topic with Mohammed Aziz Touahar.
The election of Salah ad-Din al-Kumishi as the new head of the High National Election Commission represents a sensitive turning point in the course of Libya's political process. This comes amid a deep crisis of trust between political actors and transitional institutions in general. Supporters of this step see it as an attempt to reactivate the electoral track and break the state of stagnation, especially if the new chairman succeeded in demonstrating the Commission's independence and improving its technical readings, which could give the political process a limited push forward and return elections to the forefront of the national debate. On the other hand, opponents view this election as a unilateral decision that reflects the continuation of institutional division and subjects the Commission to political polarization that could strip it of its vitality, threatening to return election from a tool for resolution into a new factor to conflict. Accordingly, the prospects of Libya's political process will remain contingent on al-Kamishi's ability to shield the Commission from interference and on the existence of broader political consensus around clear constitutional and legal rules. Without that, the change in the Commission's leadership will remain an administrative measure with limited impact rather than a genuine transformation in the course of the Libyan crisis.
Continuing on the political front in the Central African Republic, provisional results confirm President Faustin Archange Touadera wins a third term with 76.15% of the vote, according to the National Electoral Authority. Yasmin Ben Ashur explains more on the topic.
The early result of the presidential election in the Central African Republic show that President Faustin Archange Touadera has won a third term. He received more than 76.15% of the votes, according to the election authority. His opponent, Anisit George Dologwili, got 14.6% of the votes, while Henry Marydondra received 3.19%. Voter turnout was 52.42%. The final result will be announced in mid-January, after all appeals are reviewed. The Malagasy political analyst Louise Kamako.
In the short term, these elections may allow for a certain continuity of the state and help reassure international partners. But in the medium and long term, lasting stability will depend on other much deeper factors. The Central African Republic remains a country where state authority is incomplete. Armed groups still control several regions. The economy is fragile, and community tensions remain high. Even a peaceful election, however, cannot by itself guarantee peace. The central issue will therefore be the post-election period, the ability of those in power to engage in dialogue with the opposition, strengthen the justice system, and concretely improve living conditions will be decisive.
The political situation in the country is still open as people wait for the final result. There are calls for calm and for respecting the law to keep the country stable.
In Guinea, political transition gives way to a new phase. According to African political analyst Gilles Yabe, the election of Mamadi Doumbouya marks the official end of the transition period following an adoption of a new constitution and the gradual establishment of new institutions. Let's hear what he told Samar Hamadi.
Yes, the election of Mamadi Doumbouya marks the end of the transition. There is, of course, a period of establishing new institutions, and a referendum on a new constitution has already been held in Guinea. The various institutions will be set up gradually, and the country will be governed on the basis of the new constitution. The presidential election in Guinea confirmed Mamadi Doumbouya in power. He is now an elected president for a 7-year term, so there were no major stakes involved. This does not mean, however, that Doumbouya lacks genuine popular support, as he is credited with a fairly positive record, particularly in economic matters and infrastructure development.
In Somalia, President Hassan Sheikh Mahmoud holds an emergency cabinet meeting instructing the government to prioritize national sovereignty and accelerate the implementation of key national programs. Still in Somalia, Defense Minister Ahmed Malim Fiki announces the killing of more than 22 Al-Shabaab figures, including 2 senior leaders, during the separate military operations of the south of the country. In Sudan, the army says it regains the upper hand against the rapid support forces, announcing the downing of drones targeting the Marwi Dam and 2 military sites in the north. The fighting continues to affect civilians. Still in Sudan, the drone attack hits a residential area in Al Ubaid, killing 10 people, including 7 children. The UN warns the conflict is driving what it calls the world's worst humanitarian crisis. In Gambia, the death toll from the January 1st shipwreck rises to 31, with many still missing. Authorities continue search operations as national mourning continues. In Nigeria, the death toll from a boat accident on Yobe River climbs to 29. Rescue teams are still searching around 10 missing passengers. On the economic front, the central bank in Sudan issues a new directives banning banks from financing petroleum derivative and trading in foreign currency, while allowing funding for reconstruction projects, health facilities, and educational institutions. Concluding this harvest with the sports, Nigeria qualifies for the African Cup of Nations quarterfinals with a 4-0 victory over Mozambique. Egypt also secures a quarterfinal spot after defeating Benin 3-1. As for today's fixtures, in the last round of 16, Algeria faces the Democratic Republic of Congo at 6 p.m. in Rabat, followed by Ivory Coast against Burkina Faso at 9 p.m. in Marrakech as the knockout stage continues. This is all for today's harvest. Thank you for paying attention to the fullest. It was directed by Muad Bab Ahmed, observed by Taoist, controlled with Yusuf, and streaming with Islam.
Ifriqiya FM 105.6 FM, 98.4 FM, and in shortwaves.